Alright, today we're going to take a look at the first episode of Rex Mediteraneus. Now, if you're wondering what that is, it is a series that I have announced a while ago and still have not done, but this is the day we're going to do it. So, this will be a scenario where Rome and the communists win World War IV. Now, in the war was kind of won. Not really, though. It was only Rome, Poland, and Norway, because, Norway technically lost, no. So, Rome, Poland, and Galicia. And then Rome collapsed, so, yeah. Because, the whole coalition, the willing happened, and, the democracies were the victors, even though they kind of helped the communists, I guess. But the democracies were the main victors. So, in this scenario, we're going to see how that will change. Now, the first thing we will change is that in this timeline, before, World War IV actually begins, we will see Roman troops launch an invasion of Greece. Now, this is pretty interesting because Greece is a beacon of democracy, and I believe was also a member of the Coalition of Democratic Nations in World War IV itself. So, they're going to capture some major cities, but then the Farmers' Union will also go ahead and launch an invasion into Greece. And not only into Greece, but also into this Bulgarian country over here. They're also going to invade Bulgaria. And Rome will also do the same and proceed to invade Bulgaria as well. And these guys kind of want the position on the Mediterranean. That's why they're trying to invade Greece. And then I guess Bulgaria is really just to, prevent any sort of border war, because I think it's possible, so let's just prevent that. We actually see Crete, which, I'm not sure if they would join, but let's say they do join because, to retake their land, even if they are now a democracy. And when they lost that land, they were fascists and now collaborating with communists, but, who cares, right? So Crete is going to go ahead and take over their parts, that they lost, and then they're just going to leave this be. They don't really see a point. Oh, I think this island belonged to them. I'm not sure, but I'm going to say they did. It did, so. Yeah. And from here, we're going to go ahead and see that Rome is going to decisively capture the capital of Greece. And, well, not only that, but they're going to continue moving into the Bulgarian country, which is obviously much weaker than Greece. So you can kind of assume how this is going to go. As the Farmers' Union goes in, captures the capital, the leader is probably killed, the president, I guess. And from here we do also see that now Farmers' Union is going to capture a major city of Greece and move down. They're also going to continue in here while Rome is going to just finish off this part here. And at this point, Greece goes ahead and surrenders. So now we can take a look at this peace treaty. Alright, so taking a look at this peace treaty, we can see that Bulgaria no longer exists, as it, hold up. Yep, as, they kind of got partitioned between the Farmers' Union and Rome and the Farmers' Union and Crete took land from Greece, and the rest of Greece became a Roman puppet state. And they would obviously be part of the square lines, so we can just put that in. And now this obviously took a bit, so the invasion of the Dutch team will still start, but before that Rome will kind of just mobilize the Mediterranean as well as their Greek puppets. They kind of making like something sort of like this, a sort of, I guess, like massive naval defense here, which is kind of going to scare the fascists a bit, but they're going to say, alright. And when that invasion is launched against the Dutch and their French puppet state, it kind of goes something like this. So southern France launches an invasion into northern France, going ahead and taking the capital pretty quickly. I'm not sure they did that in timeline because I forgot to rewatch, but and then the Dutch will ask, the French will ask their Big Daddy Dutch to help them out. And so they do, as they push back and now are kind of trying to retake the capital. The Dutch also come in from here. But then it comes, as a lot of forces were kind of taken off from here, For some reason. It comes one of the largest attacks in history, and it's much more coordinated than it was in our timeline. As Roman forces cross the border straight into the Netherlands. I think it won't be that big, but still big nonetheless. So yeah. The Roman allies of the Farmers Union and Poland do the same thing, pushing into Dutch territory. Something like this. Oh, and then there's also Norway. I kind of forgot about Norway. But yeah, they're also going to go ahead and invade into Dutch territory like this. And also capture this major city. The Parallel Alliance is going to send basically the same exact ultimatum like in our timeline, but in this timeline, Rome was much more prepared, and they tell Galicia to simply just go ahead and launch an invasion of Andalusia, as they see it basically as a audacity, like, why the hell are you sending us an ultimatum? Just let us do our thing, man. And, Orange France will also go ahead and send their troops into Andalusia, like this, and so will the Romans. They will also invade into here, almost capturing the capital city, and then West Africa is going to be like, whoa, what the hell, man? Not cool. And then Galicia is going to just also invade them. And yeah, this is obviously the declaration of war, so the Parallelogram Alliance will do the declaration. And well, obviously, the front, these guys are much more prepared, and while and the Norwegians even managed to slightly push into these areas that, very fortified. They don't take it, obviously, because, yeah. But they do move in, and their plan is to kind of, like, the Romans and the Dutch the Norwegians plan to link up like this and cut the Dutch team in half, which the Dutch cannot allow to happen. That would be, like, massive and very bad for the Dutch. So they're going to reinforce these areas a lot here, and making massive pushbacks to hopefully try and prevent the Dutch team, the Romans, from doing what they wanted to do. But this will actually give the Farmers Union, the Polish and the Farmers Union, a pretty big advantage here, as they kind of start going pretty good. But now we see that West Africa has arrived, and they're going to start just running over the Galicians, as Galicia, was like, whoa, it was like, wait, what? And, they're also going to start liberating territory from Andalusia, though we do see that southern France is going to go ahead and occupy these areas. And then we see that West Africa is going to very quickly advance into the territory of Galicia, taking the capital and basically just destroying them. We see that Rome orders their southern French ally to very quickly occupy the rest of Galicia, and yeah, over here, the Romans will launch a surprise invasion of this French country here, and they're going to just they're starting to get ravaged here, as we do see southern France just simply run into them like that. And then we're going to see that southern France is going to annex northern France and integrate them into their country. And from here, they're also going to launch their very own surprise invasion into the Dutch team, and the Dutch are not in a good position right now. Over in Africa, we see the official entry of I'm just going to turn off provinces. We see the official entry of the Trapezoid Alliance, and this time it's not just Tanzania like it was in our timeline then when the gold team did the genocides. Then the Trapezoid journed in. No, it's going to be the entirety of the Trapezoid Alliance making a move against the Parallelogram Alliance, as we see that thousands of forces, and maybe other South African countries are also supplying these guys to help them out beat the fascists. Thousands of forces are just being sent in straight into the gold team, and yeah. we also see that this country over here is going to make progress against this country, capturing their capital, and also proceeding to invade into this purple African parallelogram alliance country. This does not look good, so we're going to see that Morocco and Guinea are both going to, like, I guess, force these two into the parallelogram alliance so they can, you know, help out against the coalition here of the trapezoids. You know, it works pretty good actually, as the Nigerian team is going to launch a surprise invasion of the Gabon or the Lavender country or whatever, and then the Gray team is going to launch a surprise invasion into the Cyan team. At this point, the Dutch are going to make that same call they did in our timeline for every country, every fascist country in the world, to help them out. And they are going to be answered. South America does not join. And well, in our timeline, Brazil kind of had some protests when they captured specifically these northern areas over here in Colombia and to some extent into Ecuador or Venezuela or whatever you're gonna call this thing. I call it Colombia, but I'm not. But, you know, whatever. Into Colombia, and yeah, these protests are a bit worse in our timeline. So in this timeline, so we are going to see that the Circle Alliance is going to decide to stay out. You know, they're still going to track their supply, but just not as much as they would if they joined in. Who answers the call though? Australia answers the call and decides to join in on the parallelogram alliance. Oh, also we should probably just yeah, just do that. That's probably better and less confusing. Over here, the HRE, kind of just like in our timeline, they're going to go ahead and collapse into, you know, this gray team over here is going to stay neutral, and you know, then everybody's going to kind of just choose their sides. And then, you know, for these two communists, they're going to go ahead and join the Square Alliance. And yeah. And yeah, these guys are going to actually attack first because they're going to attack more aggressive. And these two over here are kind of just gonna want to focus on these guys here. That's why those guys are doing well. Like for example, we see these guys launching a surprise invasion into Poland, which is gonna be pretty bad for Poland. While Ruthenia, I call this Ruthenia, I'm not sure what everybody else calls it, they're going to go ahead and launch an invasion into the Farmers Union. As for this guy, this guy was just kind of like not prepared at all. And the pink team is actually going to go ahead and do pretty good against these two over here, as they really have no other friends, so they're kind of focusing it all on these two guys here. So yeah, we see India going ahead and joining the Square Alliance to they're kind of just going to give the same speech in their now timeline, so they're going to directly join the Square Alliance, which is going to make it less believable, but you know, whatever. And they're going to go ahead and land in here, just like another time. I'm kind of going to just speedrun this, and then, you know, the Lime Rebellion goes ahead and occurs with... Also, I have to check out, is this the, like, exact same color? Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't make that, but whatever. They're going to kind of just rise up, once again, like, just exactly like in our timeline here, basically just going around these areas, rising up like some ugly people. And well, they're kind of just going to go ahead and form their front. Once again, just like in our timeline, nothing really changed, I guess. But yeah. This thing for the gold team will actually be pretty good. And, you know, for the squares at least, as something interesting is going to happen. As we see, also, first of all, we also are actually going to see that England rebels away from the Dutch. And now, the event I wanted to tell you, we see that West Africa is going to start to retreat. They're going to start retreating from Galicia, and eventually they're just going to, like, leave it all. And after a net collaborative effort between Rome and the French mainly, we see the restoration of Galicia. Over here we see the capital of Andalusia being captured, and Andalusia just kind of they're just kind of gonna lose land, and then they're just gonna surrender because they really stand no chance. And yeah, there we go. And well, they're just retreating fully out of Iberia, and it's very weird. Just kind of gonna eventually just fully retreat. And you want to see why? Yeah, this is why. We see Carthage goes ahead and rebels away from West Africa, and not only from West Africa. As we see that rebels in Libya rise up, and even some rebels in the Pink Country rise up. And yeah, the reason they kind of retreated was to take care of this thing, to try and put them down, but it's way too late, and they may have also received some funding. Now we're going to see an interesting event happen, and that is Norway releasing the Red Team. The Red Team is going to go ahead and be released, but in this timeline not by India, but by Norway instead. And this is going to, there's a very reason why I did this. I'm not sure if it's obvious, but there is a reason. The reason why I did it, let me just first of all finish this up. The specific reason why I made it to be Norway that releases them and not India is because Norway is communist, and this will kind of make the Red Team have a communist outlook, I guess, sort of on the world. So when the old empire comes back, they are much more communist leaning. I think that's actually from the Green Team. Yeah, it's probably from the Green Team. And yeah, the old empire reunites just like in our timeline, with these countries going in. And by this point, I imagine that the rebellion would have probably spread to India as well. And India is doing much, to Persia actually, and India is doing much worse than in our timeline. And this will actually benefit the square lines in the long run. I'll explain that in the peace treaty. But whatever, this will result in the old empire, kind of like in our timeline, coming in to help out. And while India is opposed to it, they can't really do much in this timeline because they're struggling, and they kind of need somebody to save them. So really, this is their only option. Anyways, back to the Dutch team. We see them go out of England and just kind of militarized fully, but people aren't really happy that this is a mass level militarization, and a really bad event happened. Remember that plan Norway and Rome had? Oh, okay, yeah, it's complete. And this will kind of just result in the Dutch kind of falling off over here, and we see that Norway makes a breakthrough in these front lines. We see the French team going ahead and continuing in, and after a while we see that the Dutch just go ahead and surrender because there's really nothing they can do about it. Over in Africa, the front, they're kind of, we would probably see that you die, so do you too, you probably also die, and this is probably going to get given over to the old empire. And from here we're going to see that the old empire lands in Somalia, and after Israel or Palestine or Levant, I'll just call it the Levant, I think that's much safer, joins in. It's really bad, it's extremely horrible, it's terrible for the fascists here, as they're just kind of losing horribly right now. They're just getting cooked, man. They're getting bamboozled here. So yeah, they're gonna get invaded here, and it's just really bad. This country over here will go ahead and try to join the Parallelogram Alliance to save itself, but it's a bit too late, as the You know, these guys kind of already just like go ahead and invade it. You know, it's way too late for them. They're just gonna get invaded here. Over here we see that these guys go in, and we're going to see that Guinea is going to do a very interesting thing. They're going to leave the war, right? They're going to go ahead and exit the war and actually also exit the Star Alliance. And then they go ahead and launch an invasion of West Africa, which is also their ally. So, like, yeah. And the reason they're doing this is to save as much of West Africa as possible, as West Africa actually ordered them to do this because they would rather die than surrender to these dirty communists, am I right? So after the capital is taken, the dictator flees very far. He flees over here, and you know, Guinea offers him asylum, but you know, he refuses, and instead what happens is that, well, he announces the official dissolvement of West Africa. Yeah, West Africa dissolves, simply. They just dissolve, they just disband, I guess. I'm not sure if this dissolvement is abolishment, I'm not sure. Anyways, from here we see the Carthaginian rebels also start doing a pretty good job against the Libyans. And after a while, and you know, the leader of Chad and Libya are going to have a meeting, and they decide that the best option for them and their countries is to surrender over to the Square Alliance. With this, we see this country just kind of getting fully run over, and we're going to see continued invasions happen into the Somalian Empire. These two major cities will be captured. And talking about that, we see that Tanzania is going to go along the coastline and just, yeah, they're now reaching for the capital. And it's starting to kind of get a bit of a race for the capital, like who's going to get it first, because, yeah, like between like the old empire and, like the trapezoid, the squares and the trapezoids. And the square team is going to kind of secure this northern area. Seeing this, the Tanzanians and the Trapezoid Alliance in general, in unison, will move in and start sieging the capital. But then we also see these guys moving in, and it's kind of just like a race here. And eventually the capital is kind of going to be taken, but it's very close. As for the Lime team, they're kind of just going to have to surrender over to India. Because, yeah, they're just going to get defeated. I'm just going to say that. It's really no point in focusing on that. And now at this point, we're also going to see that in this timeline, Blue Australia joins kind of later in the war, as it can become, whoa. So we see that Blue Australia joins a bit later in the war, and yes, I know it's the wrong shape, just give me a moment. Oh, check. What? Alright. And they are just going to go ahead and launch a surprise invasion of Red Australia, or the fascists here. And something is also going to happen, as we also see that the, Papua New Guinea is going to go ahead and join in on the Square Alliance to get some land out of Red Australia, and that's just this part over here, you know. Not only that, Ukraine also joined the Square Alliance for the purposes of getting land from this blue country, not purple, whatever. And we also see the old empire finally make their rejoining official. And at this point, this front is kind of starting to fall apart. Well, as these guys are just simply getting overwhelmed and pushed back. And, yeah, they're just kind of going to start getting invaded. And, yeah, we see that Ukraine is going to invade and capture the capital. And at this point, we see that the this country is Muscovy is actually going to be the first to surrender, interestingly enough. So yeah. As for this guy, he probably surrendered long ago. I'm not gonna lie to you. Or just fell off simply. And from here, we're just going to see the surrender of Tenya. And as for Pink Kazakhstan, well, they're going to actually resist a bit. We're going to start seeing invasions occurring. I guess liberations. As these guys, now it's invasion because they're going to start invading into Pink Kazakhstan. What is happening already? And they're just going to start invading, and they did this the first time, so they're going to do it again. They did this before, they're going to do it again, so they're kind of just spreading out. And the capital is going to be captured. And we're going to see that the blue team, or I guess blue Kazakhstan, is going to go ahead and join the Square Alliance. They do this in order to regain the lands that Pink Kazakhstan took from them. I mean, they as well alongside the Kyrgyzstan country, I guess, or Kyrgyzstan, I think this is. I'm not sure what to call it, to be honest with you. But yeah, they're going to invade as well. And at this point, these guys stand absolutely no chance. And they're gonna just be outnumbered. And yeah, now over to here, we're going to see some more invasion take place until Red Australia agrees to a compromise where they are allowed to still exist. And yeah, the war is basically over with a square team victory, and I guess trapezoid to some extent, without any democratic coalitions. So yeah, let's take a look at this peace treaty, which is going to take me a very, very long while to draw. Alright, I think we're done. Wow, this was a really long peace treaty to make, but we're done. So let's start over in where the simplest. Over here in Australia, we saw that, first of all, Papua New Guinea gained the lake over here, this part from Oceania. While over here, we see that Blue Australia took like a few lands over here. They got some provinces out of Red Australia, but mainly they're fine. They're still fascist, by the way. Over in Europe, let's check up on Europe. Yeah, we kind of see that this map looks very different. First of all, over here in Iberia, West Africa is fully kicked out of Africa, and we see Iberia took not all of their claim. Not Iberia, but Galicia took all of their claim, and also some Andalusian lands, so did France and Rome, and the rest of this became a Roman puppet. Also over here, France is now united under the communists, and the French team actually held a vote if the capital should stay here or be moved to here. And people vote. It was close, but people voted for it to stay here. And the reason why is probably because, well, they do kind of need to assimilate the area yet, because it's probably still pretty fascist. So it's best to keep it here because, that's a communist holdout, while the north is still obviously going to have to be, I guess, pacified, I guess, because, fascists are probably still there. Oh, I just kind of realized I don't really like these borders, but I'm going to keep them. Who cares, right? Over here, Poland took land, the Farmers Union took land, Norway took land, and the rest of the Dutch are democratic. And, Rome kind of wanted to make them communist, but, communism is extremely unpopular in the Dutch team. Nobody likes it. Almost nobody likes it. Like, I imagine the only really parts that would probably like it were probably here, like in the south over here that they had, and those are already taken anyway. So, yeah, over here, there's no chance. The government's probably over here. Wow, that's just so different. Farmers Union took land, Poland took land, Ukraine took land, and this guy's massive now. These guys didn't really take too much land. They only took a bit from Pink Kazakhstan. Pink Kazakhstan is not necessarily in the best position, as you may notice. They lost a lot of land in this war. And over here, we see that Muscovy is very small now, and the Holy Roman Empire is back, except the Pink team is actually going to be like kicked out, and then this country is now communist, and something pretty major will happen with these guys next episode. Yeah, next episode. Another very major event will happen next episode as well, so probably should check out next episode because it'll be very important. Now let's go to Africa, where I also forgot to erase the this guy is over here. Now the Star Economical Alliance is gone. The Battle of Alliance is gone pretty obviously, and Carthage is back and stronger, pretty strong now. Libya and Chad no longer exist. West Africa is now actually democratic. It's kind of the same story as the Dutch, so I'm not really gonna go over why. And these guys, they lost land to hold up. They lost land to this guy and this guy, and they also had to become democratic and join the Trapezoid Alliance. Over here we see that Somalia got split. First of all, Ethiopia or Eritrea or whatever you want to call it, gained independence, as well as Sudan, and these two and these three actually are both in the Square Alliance. And the south over here is the pro-Trapezoid and in the Trapezoid Alliance. Over here, India's a bit mad about this because they did take over the rebellion, but they did not gain a single inch of land, and now they are basically a Roman puppet state, and they're kind of really, they're not communists, but they're mostly a dictatorship. Like, elections are keep getting cancelled, and yeah. Over here, Persia doesn't exist anymore, and India kind of wanted to do something about the Roman Empire, but they can't really, so yeah. And I think this is the peace treaty. Oh, also, the Carthaginians will go ahead and join the Square Alliance, and now this is the peace treaty. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and Crystal Kingdom, I hope you're happy now. And episode 2 will be coming out, and I'm actually very excited because I have the whole series planned out. I'm not sure how many episodes it will be, but I have the whole series planned out, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.